Come explore our world of coffee. DeLuna Coffee was founded in 2014 by Ed and Courtney Lemmix alongside their son, Brett. The Lemmixes are Pensacola natives with a passion for coffee, so what better than their Beachin blend, which is just that, Beachin. It's their classic combination of Colombian and Brazilian beans. It creates a superior French roasted coffee taste, lower in caffeine, so it'll keep you easy breezy. Ed and Brett are both FSU alums and are extending a special offer to our listeners. Use the promo code WARCHANT15 for a 15% discount. Visit thelunacoffee.com and check out their Facebook and Instagram.
From Tally to Cali,
It's time
to wake up.
wake up, wake up. WarChant.com is your ultimate Seminole sports source.
and this is Wake Up Warchant, fueled by DeLuna Coffee.
Coffee's for closers only.
Now here's WarChant.com's Aslan Hajavandi.
And Corey Clark.
Wake up! What is going on? It is Wake Up War Chant. It is fueled by DeLuna Coffee, DeLunaCoffee.com. Come explore our world of coffee. Corey, shout out to the big homie on YouTube, Dro2Real83. Says, I just bought several bags of DeLuna Coffee at a local grocery store here in Pensacola, where I live. The grocery store is called Greer's. Coffee's excellent. If you live here in Pensacola, I suggest you swing by the local Greer's grocery store and pick up a few bags. So,
All right. Okay, that's good to know.
yeah. Although I don't know if the Dro is really too real, maybe stop blowing Dro and you won't need to drink coffee. But, drink coffee though. So yeah, keep blowing Dro. Live your life. Who am I to tell you how to live your life? Warchant.com will tell you everything you need to know about Florida State because we are the ultimate Seminole sports source. Use the promo code WARCHANT30 for a 30-day free trial. It's a really good time. AD stuff swirling, recruiting news swirling, basketball season's getting going. It's good times. Corey Clark, how are you, friend?
I'm good, buddy. How are you doing? You doing okay?
Yeah, not too bad, man. We're just moving along, just trying to find purpose in this football-less world for a guy covering Florida State athletics. But I think I'm managing, trying to. Do I sound bad? Is it okay? Am I bringing you down more than I usually do?
No, you sound a little despondent's not the right word, but you don't seem as energetic or energized as you normally are. But yeah, I think it's the maybe the December doldrums.
Perhaps.
You got what do we got? 8 months. We're 8 months away from football, so I understand.
Jeez, why'd you have to put it like that? Not helping the cause, big guy.
Well, I mean, hey, only 3 months away from spring football. How about that?
Okay,
3.5 months from spring football. We'll get to see. It'll be a whole different roster, so it'll be cool to see who's here.
Yeah. All right, before we get to football, we got to talk about a budding dynasty, Corey Clark. Florida State women's soccer wins their third national title on Monday night. It was a scoreless draw after 110 minutes of play out there in Santa Clara. Went to penalty kicks for a second year in a row. Redemption, thy name is Christina Roque, Jalen Howell. Great performance by those two young ladies as well as their counterparts and their teammates. Florida State wins the national title 4-3 in PKs. You watched every minute of the game, Corey Clark. Good for you, man. Proud of you.
I did. It was stressful, man. I know there. I guess there isn't another way to. I don't want to be ridiculous American soccer, not casual soccer fan, but I really wish there was a better way to decide it than PKs. But you know what? It was cool that the team that lost in PKs last year, 4-1 to Santa Clara, they got and that was such a heartbreaking loss because of the way they gave up the lead late in the second half. For them to come back and win it the next year, man, on PKs is awesome, man. That's it's great for Roque. It's great for the whole team, man. And Krikorian's got his third one.
Yeah. Roque, what the second save she made, I forgot it was the third or the fourth rotation, where she guessed right, but she didn't dive too far. Just the kick didn't go as far as it usually goes when you're aiming for the left post.
Yeah, and it hit off her leg, right?
Yeah, she kicked it away, though, so it was just scrapping, being resourceful, finding a way, Corey, scratching and clawing. So 2 huge saves for her in the PK shootout. Thought Heather Payne had a really well-placed PK. Her shot was like lower corner. No one would be able to get to it. And then Jalen Howell, an absolute ripper.
Yeah, and then, again, is it Zhao?
I think so,
I should know because she's been here for 4 years and has been really good for 4 years. But the way she ended it,
I didn't like it. I hate when people do that. It makes me feel like they're getting in their own head. Like just run up and just
Oh no, I didn't mean about the pausing and the running up. I meant the way she kicked it. With the spin on it, like just not a care in the world. Like I'm just going to spin this. It's going to start kind of, left center, and it's going to spin right into the back left corner. Like she wasn't nervous, didn't matter. It just as calm as could be. Like Howell ripped that one in the top right, and then she iced it to win the national championship. Man, that's it was well deserved, right? Like it wasn't as if BYU outplayed them. I thought Florida State outplayed Santa Clara last year and got unlucky, or gave the game away. Really, honestly, in the final half. But this one wasn't that. Like I thought Florida State, although they didn't get a lot of great shots on goal, I thought they controlled the pace, especially in the second half. They definitely controlled possession. And then they did it when it mattered, man. So flipping Krikorian. And I guess you could call it a dynasty. What is that, 3 in 10 years?
3 in 8 years. Their fourth trip in 8 years. So, 14, they won their first one. And then 18, and then last season, obviously, they came up short. So
I also think they either went in 12 or 13, too, and lost to UCLA 1-0
13.
in that one.
Yeah.
So they've been there. So that means they've been there
five times
in 9 years and won 3 of them. Yeah, I'd say that's close. That's about a dynasty. I think you can go ahead and call it that.
Bobby Bowden would take that, right? He'd trade that result. Right?
3 titles in 9 years. Yeah, absolutely. And the two of the ones you lost were both games you lost by in PKs in one, and you lost by 1 in the other.
In OT. Yeah, the UCLA game was an OT.
Yeah,
look at you.
I was there.
Look at that mind steel trap.
Buddy.
Folks, we're texting during the game the entire way, Ira, myself, and Corey ponders to himself out loud. Like, I wonder if BYU has won a national championship since 1984, their football national title. Google says they have. They've won several in different lower, less revenue earning sports or what have you. But as I'm looking up at the 84 BYU team, I'm like, that was their quarterback? I'm like, who was the quarterback, Corey? And what bowl game did they win? And without a beat, Corey's just like, Robbie Bosco? Is that the guy that was?
Yep.
Never even heard of the guy. And I love college football. Never heard of him. And then Corey's like, they beat a 6-5 Michigan team in the Holiday Bowl. And I'm just like, you're unreal. Unreal.
Well, it's so crazy. I mean, imagine BYU. That's how stupid college football was back then. I know we have issues with it now. But, I mean, good grief. BYU goes undefeated, and their reward is the Holiday Bowl because I think they had a tie-in where they had to go to the Holiday Bowl. They played in it every year. And then their AD sets up a game that's the easiest possible game, so they'll be undefeated and have a chance to win the national title, and they end up getting voted for and winning it. And they beat a really bad Michigan team or a straight-up average Michigan team to win the national title. That's how dumb it was back then, folks. Like, the top 1 and 2, they never played each other unless it worked out that way where one was in the Big 8 and the other one was in the, somehow played in the Orange Bowl or the Big 10 and Pac-10, and they had to meet up in the Rose Bowl. Like, they avoided each other back then. So it was ridiculous. I know we're not here to talk about that. But, yeah, what's crazy about Robbie Bosco is he's like the only BYU quarterback in that era that you wouldn't know.
Yeah.
Like, it was Steve Young. It was Jim McMahon. It was Ty Detmer.
Yeah.
All those guys, and then the guy that won the national title is some Mark
Martin.
Wilson was in there.
He's the T. Martin for them, like not Peyton.
Yeah, right. Yeah, wasn't Peyton that won it. It was the guy after Peyton. So so it goes from Jim McMahon to Robbie Bosco, and Robbie Bosco is the one that wins it for him. But hey, BYU didn't have a dynasty, did they, in football? But Florida State soccer has a dynasty going. And if you want, Ira just tweeted about this, so we should mention it. He did a Warchant 1-on-1 with Krikorian back in April. Right? So before they made their run it's so weird to call it last year's national championship. So they lost that game to Santa Clara in May. You know what I mean? Like they lost that in May. So here we are 6 months later and they're playing again. So I keep wanting to call it last year, but it was I guess last season is correct, but it was 6 months ago. Yeah. So they just went to PKs in the national championship game twice in 6 months. I mean, that is all-time stress level. And then you look at Krikorian when he's walking off the field, and it's like, ho-hum. What time's the flight? Are we leaving tonight? Or are we leaving? Like, he's just so – I mean, I guess that's what he's built an incredible program, and so many coaches at Florida State but everywhere can learn about what he's done, how he's done it, the standards they have. It's remarkable what they've done. They've won 8 ACC titles and now 3 national championships and have been to the College Cup 11 times. And the College Cup is their phrasing for the Final Four.
Yeah.
So they've been to the Final Four 11 times. They've been in the national championship game 6 times, and now they've won 3. And you could make an argument probably that this might be the best one they've ever had. When you look at the overall record, how good they were the whole season. I think the only loss they had was when they had 2 or 3 players playing internationally, so they weren't there, so they were having to play some subs. It's an all-time great team that had 14 shutouts, and I added it up real quick, Aslan. They outscored their opponents 66-13 over in the course of the season. They gave up 13 goals all season. They gave up 1 goal in the entire postseason, and that was in PKs and a 5-1 win. That was it. Right. Oh, not PKs, a penalty kick. They didn't go to PKs. They were up. They beat SMU 5-1. The 1 goal they gave up was a penalty. So they didn't give up a goal. And what is that? I can't do the math real quick. What is that? 450 minutes plus the 2 overtimes, so 480 minutes. They didn't give up a goal in regulation and against the best teams in the country. Yeah. That's just sensational.
Yeah, second round, SMU was number 25, Pepperdine was 19 in the Sweet 16, Michigan was number 9, Rutgers 5 in the semis, and then BYU number 13. So they ran a gauntlet. Took down Virginia earlier. Actually, no, they tied Virginia. They drew Virginia.
Right.
But whatever. 22-1-2. National champ. Shout out to Coach Krikorian and the Lady Seminole soccer program. All right, Corey, back to me being borderline despondent. I don't think I'm despondent. I'm a little bit anxious. I don't know if that's fair to be anxious. Well, actually, we'll get to that in a second. We were bracing, rather, if I could speak and figure out this language that I'm supposed to know. We were bracing for possible news of Florida State making a move at the athletic director spot and making a hire possibly official on Monday. That did not happen. The University of Louisville Board of Trustees did meet, but they adjourned without any sort of finality to the situation with their sitting current AD Vince Tyra, who has emerged as possibly the leading candidate for Florida State. They are supposed to have a, University of Louisville Athletic Association meeting at 9 o'clock here on Tuesday. So possibly that will render some sort of outcome to his tenure at Louisville, whether that's him getting re-upped or being let loose from his non-compete clause. But sounds like maybe there's some momentum built. I would assume if he's a leading candidate, and if that were to fall through, I don't know, maybe by the end of the week we're going to find out if we don't know by the end of today. So where are you at with that, Corey?
Yeah, I agree with you, buddy. I think we'll find out sooner rather than later. I would, there's a lot of smoke there. Sources in Louisville, sources in Tallahassee. He certainly seems to be option number 1 for the job. So, I guess he could turn it down. We know that Louisville had that meeting, the Board of Trustees meeting on Monday night, and nothing came of that. No announcement either way was made there. So, who knows, buddy? Who knows? And I was thinking, if Tyra had accepted the job, and it was maybe they didn't want to do it Monday night because the team was playing for a national championship, and they maybe didn't want to upstage a sport winning a national championship. So they were going to, if Florida State, if it had been agreed upon, maybe the idea was let's announce it on Tuesday and let Krikorian and his crew have their moment in the sun or moment in the moonlight, I guess, since it's a little late start on Monday night. But, we'll see, man. We'll see. I would say this. It's a very important hire. I get it. Very, very important hire. The next 8 days when it comes to portal and recruiting, I would think is still much more important to the average Florida State fan. Even the not average Florida State fan. Like diehard Florida State fans care much more about Travis Hunter right now than they do the AD.
Very strong column by our own Irish O'Fell about how pivotal of a hire this possibly could be for Florida State. Maybe some sort of, not long-term ramifications, but just a very good retrospective of how Florida State is sort of in the situation they are, kind of reliving some of the previous tenures and eras of athletic directors that have gone by. So definitely check that out if you're not a member of the website. Again, use that promo code to get on the site.
Well, Corey, his point was basically you haven't had a real strong leader. I'm not saying these guys weren't strong leaders. They weren't visibly strong leaders out front, seeming like control of the ship. Like, this is my ship. Y'all are all on it. I'm the boss.
I'm the captain now.
Yeah, exactly right. Since Dave Hart, midway through his tenure until, TK basically got rid of him. Because then after that it was Spetman, Then it was Randy Wilcox. Then it was Stan Wilcox. Who's Randy Wilcox? I don't know who that is. I'm gonna have to Google him here in a second. Where'd that come from? What part of the brain was that nestled in all these years?
Randy Spetman, Stan Wilcox.
Oh, okay, there you go. That might have been right. And then like we talked about yesterday, Coburn was a guy that was an interim AD that just happened to be here for the last 3 years. But this will be a guy that you hope is leading the department for 10 years. They're gonna have to make a lot of big decisions and raise a lot of money and get you on the same. Try to get you as close to the footing as all your rivals. So it's an important hire. I'm not saying it's not. I just think this current, where we are, this current climate, this landscape, the next 9 days of recruiting and all the next 2 months of portal, I think that getting this football team to be a top 10, top 15 program is the most important thing that can be done. A strong AD helps that, but still, I think most people are going to be much more concerned with the Travis Hunters and AJ Duffys and there was a Remington Award finalist put his name in the portal.
Really?
As long as you see that, kid from Virginia.
That. Yeah.
Go get him.
Well, I like Mo. We like Mo Smith. Why is everybody trying to force Maurice out? People talk about move Darius Washington center. Let's get the guy from Virginia. What did Maurice Smith do to you people?
Well, I feel like you'd want the Remington Award finalist probably. Maurice Smith still he's young. He can learn from a really good player. Go get all of them. I was going
to ask you, outside of politics, is there any other endeavor in this world where us here in America, we like outsiders? It's like we like mavericks in the political world, but don't we want people we want our doctors to be, well-seasoned, well-trained in their specific area of expertise. We want the people that are holding others in power accountable to know the right questions to ask and how to be objective and fair and firm. Especially with where, I don't know, maybe because it is such a brave new world with NIL, and who knows what's going to happen with maybe the dissolution of the NCAA in football, whether that's the FBS becoming its own mega conference and just taking the Power Five out. But again, Dave Hart fit the profile of lifelong collegiate athletic bureaucrat. And, there's a little bit of language that Ira kind of sprinkled in there that I liked when he kind of talked about, the real strength of a guy like Dave Hart. Maybe not so much knowing how things work in this universe of collegiate athletics, but just knowing the people that are in that sort of sphere of this part of, the collegiate experience. I mean, knowing the people, having the networks, it's such a huge, big deal. And then you're going to pull a guy who, I guess maybe the perk is that he's been in your conference, but again, is only 3 or 4 years into this profession, if you will, man. I remember wanting to be on television so bad, and it was so difficult to find my first job because everyone's like, man, you need experience. And it's like, well, how can I get experience if you don't give it to me and you don't take a chance on me? And I swore up and down, I am so good. I could totally do this. And I remember being in television for 3 or 4 years and looking back at my original demo reel. I'm like, oh my gosh, I was horrible. I thought it was really good. I'm like, man, I was really awkward on camera. Still am a little bit, but not nearly as much. But I just think of how much I've grown being on camera, talking, being able to edit video, and obviously nowhere near as important of a job as running a, $100, a $250 million endeavor business for a university. I hope that there's, obviously with the interim tag that David Coburn had and, eventually became the full-time AD, but I just hope that there was certainly a lot of vetting and a lot of candidates that were they kicked tires on people before going, not to say this would potentially be a bad hire, but I just feel, again, with the leadership that hasn't been there in that position for this university in such a long time, that this is a really crucial time to get it right. I just certainly hope that, they did due diligence. And if you are going to go after somebody who's kind of a maverick, man, I sure hope maybe this is the guy that could figure it all out. Well, I'm a little bit apprehensive about that. A little bit.
It's hard to get. Who knows? I'm almost to the point with ADs like I am with just college coaches in general. Like this guy was at Louisville. Who else? He was the AD at Louisville. He wasn't the AD at Kentucky State or my go-to UTEP. He was the AD at a place that is very passionate about sports. And look, man, they have good crowds at everything they do. They put 18,000 people in that arena for a basketball team. My point being that city and that community cares about that department and those athletic programs. And he ran a major athletic department for 3 years, 4 years. What did Coburn had never been an AD. Stan Wilcox had never been an AD. He'd been an assistant AD.
Well, you're proving my point kind of here, aren't you? No offense to the aforementioned gentleman. We love David on the show. Stan, never met you, but I'm sure you're an all right guy.
And then before him, Randy Spetman, I think, came from Utah State.
Correct. Yeah. Michael Alford was at Western Michigan too, so I know there's a big Michael Alford groundswell, like Michael Alford in the interactions I've had with him. But Tyra is at least Power 5 experience. But then again,
and what's the main goal? What's the main role of an athletic director?
Man, you got to know good coaches. You've got to know how. I know you got to understand how important football is, but you need to know what goes into creating a successful football program. Like just how important it is to have analysts and to have support staff and to be able to make the facilities.
I guess I would say this, Stan Wilcox, he didn't put together Jimbo's staff. But
Jimbo did it all, though. But we don't have a Jimbo Fisher right now.
I wouldn't say that. I wouldn't say. I think Norvell. I think a good AD hires good people and lets them work, just like any good boss. And so if he believes in Mike Norvell, Mike Norvell's going to come to him and like, hey, I need, $3.1 million to get Venables to be my DC. Whatever it would have been.
Joe Brady. How about Joe Brady to be your OC?
Yeah, I want Joe Brady to be my OC. I got to give him 1.8. And you have a guy that's at least been involved with high power, high pressure college athletic. It doesn't mean he's going to do a good job at Florida State, but who's done it? Was Wilcox the best AD of the last 15 years because he happened to oversee the national championship, or was that just kind of done by Jimbo? And if we're going to give Jimbo all the credit, then where does the AD where's the blame?
Right.
What are we blaming him for? So
that was unfair. That was unfair. But I do think can't we say that it is a different time? Although it's only 8 years ago.
Yeah. So, but it was cool. It was more of a rhetorical question. I think what this person has to do, and Alford certainly has to be doing this too. It is a fundraising position. You are in a full sprint to raise funds. You have to. I don't think cutting costs and cutting sports. That's not how you. That's not what you're hiring somebody for right now, man. You need somebody with a clear vision to raise money, lots and lots of money, for this university and for this athletic department, because you're trying to compete in the second biggest sport in the country. And right now, you've seen your rivals just spend $8 million. Well, more than that, because they had to buy out Manny Diaz. And they had to, I think, pay Cristobal's buyout at Oregon. So just in this one fell swoop, they spent like $25 million. I know it'll be paid off over different times, but it's $8 million for Cristobal a year. You have to pay his buyout at Oregon, which I think is another $8 million. And then you have to pay Manny Diaz's buyout, which is around $8 million, $8 or $9 million. So you're talking about $25 million. Miami's joined the race. It's taken them 20 years, but they've joined the race. So now you need to have the funds. You need to raise the funds. You need to drum up all the support you can drum up to get on par in spending with the universities you're trying to compete against. And I think that is by far the number one goal of whoever you hire. And I don't know enough about this guy's time at Louisville to know how much money he raised. All I know is he took Papa John's name off the stadium. And he's had to deal with some things now. And I know Chris Mack's assistant coach, Dino Gaudio, right? Like tried to blackmail him.
Correct.
Like it's always Louisville, man. Like or Louisville, however we pronounce it. Like Louisville's going to do some Louisville things, whether it's Patino at a diner with a waitress. There's always just kind of some and he had to deal with it. So maybe he's just looking to get out of that. I don't know. Maybe he's not even coming.
Well, this is the crazy thing. He gave Satterfield, who he hired a few days ago, vote of confidence. But the hubbub around the program and the university is that he feels he doesn't have full autonomy to make the decisions that he wants to. And this is Tyre, actually, is the way it shows on the website. It says pronounced Ty, all caps T-I-E, and then Ray, lowercase R-A-Y. So Tyre. Sorry about that, Vince.
Ooh, I don't know about that. I'm never going to be able to do that.
But apparently he might not have wanted to keep Satterfield, but his kind of hands were tied on that. But, hey, you made the hire. So part of the reason why there's speculation of him wanting to leave is because there's possibly a disconnect between he and the president's office and the people above him. But according to his bio on here, the department has embarked on and putting major emphasis on major capital projects and has several upgrades in progress. An indoor baseball facility and Denny Crum Hall are two things. A $23.5 million 128-bed residence hall that will house both students and student athletes. Expansion of the football stadium was completed in 2018. And they've been in the top 35 of the Sports Directors Cup, the Learfield Cup, but we've been higher than that, I think. But yeah, there's some of your major capital projects.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think that's the main thing. Like you can get all excited about the Learfield Cup, and I'm not diminishing it, but most people don't listen to this show and don't get on Warchant and don't become boosters because of those other sports. So it's awesome. Like when Spetman was here, I think they finished top 10 2 or 3 years in a row, which is really incredible because especially the way they used to score that stupid. It was when Stanford had won 28 in a row. It was completely rigged, essentially.
The crew team. Come on, man. That crew team, they count.
It's nonsense. It's just ridiculous to judge athletic departments based on that. So basically the way it was scored, I'll get into it real quick. It's your top 20 athletic programs. You take however your top 20 athletic programs finished in the national rankings, you get points. But so Florida State, when Spetman was when they started appearing in the top 10, they only had 19 sports or maybe 20. So they had to count all of them. Meanwhile, Stanford's got like 38. So they're cutting like 18 sports don't count towards their rankings because you only take the top 20. So like if the Stanford basketball team only made the Sweet 16, it wouldn't even count because their sailing team won a national title. And who gives a rat's, I almost said a bad word, who gives a rat's behind about sailing? Especially with the woman from Full House
Lori Loughlin.
Getting her kid on the sailing team. Like that was all preposterous anyway, that they even gave scholarships for stuff like that. So it was always rigged against a public university like Florida State that didn't have many. But anyway, I don't think anybody looked at Randy Spetman and was like, man, what a great hire this guy's been. What a strong AD. Look how the volleyball team's doing now. I mean, it just people don't care. They care about the football program. They care about basketball. They want all their teams to do well and win. But what drives the ship, we all know what drives the ship. And I think you're getting a guy, I know it's Louisville, it's not Notre Dame, but he does understand how important football is. I promise you he does. Whoever is in that role will absolutely have to understand. And Ira made the point in his column too, like you also have an academic now as a president with no ties to the university, other than he is the president of the university. And you do think that he will allow the AD to just, you're in control of the athletic department. It's yours. So you need a strong person in that role. You know, you're not going to have an AD, you're not going to have a John Thrasher or a TK Weatherall that's kind of helping run the show from the president's perch. They're going to be focusing on academics. So you need a strong AD. And again, I don't know if this guy's going to be great, but if it's him, Tyray, is that what you said?
Correct.
Oh boy. I mean, it's spelled Tyra.
I mean, I'm just.
That's going to be hard. You know, at least he's been in a big program with a passionate fan base.
That's important. I do see on here maybe there's a big time booster in Clearwater that he's friends with, because it says that his most recent service or whatever position was he was chairman of the board and interim CEO of Elite Medical, a company based in Clearwater, Florida. So maybe there's a Florida State guy that he befriended that he can maybe shake some money out of. Hopefully have our own John Ruiz. Do you feel like you're one of the last ones out when it comes to understanding sports betting and you don't know where to start? Well, let's try to understand where the market's moving and which smart bets are out there and have some fun while listening to it. Courtesy of BetQL Daily, sponsored by FanDuel. It is the must-listen show for sports bettors and sports fans alike. Search for it on your favorite search engine, BetQL Daily. You'll find their website, and they do a great job of breaking everything down into easy-to-digest morsels, little 10-minute clips, 5-minute clips. You can also follow them on social media, such as Twitter, where they do also breakdowns for you. Joe Ostrowski, Joe Giglio, and Aaron Hawksworth serve up the wagertainment, the sports talk that you love with the betting insights you need each weekday on Odyssey, 9 a.m. to noon Eastern. Search for it, or you can get it on Spotify or your favorite podcast app. If you're not sure where to start with sports betting, start with BetQL Daily, presented by FanDuel. Did you see what I texted you and Ira about this Super Miami booster?
I saw it. I didn't click on anything, but I saw the screen grab that you sent. Yeah.
I mean, might stand to make $20 billion on some new partnership with a real. I mean, he's tweeted here in the last 48 hours about plans of creating a stadium, like on the campus of Coral Gables High School.
Oh, okay.
That's why I'm a little despondent. I don't think that's going to happen. It just seems like Nevin Shapiro on steroids. It's so South Florida. It's so Miami. It's Miami's not even a real place because of the information I found on this guy.
We've all know Miami is like basically a simulation.
Right, yeah.
Like it's like what the real world is times 8. Like whatever city you're living in, multiply it by 8 to 10, and that's Miami. Like the colors are a little brighter, the people are a little weirder, the weather's a little hotter, the drugs are a lot more rampant.
Whoa, hey.
Well, I mean, that's how all those.
You're right.
I mean, I've watched Narcos. I've watched Cocaine Cowboys. That city was built on drug money. I'm not saying everybody there uses drugs or is a drug dealer, but that's what built that city. Hey, my dad grew up in South Florida. Love those people. Salt of the earth.
Dania Beach, stand up.
Dania Beach, that's right. Just, it's a little extra down there.
Yeah. So they sign Mario Cristobal, which I want to hear him say is, I mean, can we get like a resident Cuban person who's listening to the show to sound in on this? Because you and I are both say that I say it wrong. Like you guys make it sound like it's Cristobal, like just Cristobal. I think it's like the name Christopher in Spanish is like Cristobal. It's like Cristo. So I'm like, it's like Cristobal. Like, I'm not trying to fake like a Hispanic accent on this, but I don't want to call the guy Cristobal if it's really not Cristobal. But I digress. Anywho.
So you think it's Cristobal?
Closer to that, yeah, like Cristobal, yeah. Like an emphasis on the O, perhaps. I don't know. I'm not a good linguist, but man, I was gonna almost take like a victory lap on it because no, I can't see why he would leave Oregon. I'm like, well, man, these guys from Miami, his family's in Miami, all he knows is Miami. Living in Florida is pretty cool, but it was like Miami's never invested. And then the initial reports were 5 years, $40 million, which is like, okay, that's him taking a chance on Miami for sure, rather than them taking a chance on him, despite their spending history. In this day and age, everybody's getting 6 years, it seems like. So if you're going to only guarantee a guy 5, but no, it was double that. It was 10 years, $80 million. And then also all the trimmings around it, increased support staff, and I guess they're saying highest salary pool in the conference they're going to give him. I mean, it's Scott Frost or Jim Harbaugh, and I think he's probably closer to Harbaugh. Although, I mean, I don't know. I mean, with Scott Frost, it was really impressive at UCF, but Cristobal's won 2 Pac-12. I mean, he's won the Pac-12 twice. Last year was a little bit of a weird one. Again, I think Southern Cal's who backdoored into the championship game, or maybe Oregon themselves backdoored into it. It was a 6-game season for the Pac-12. So, but still, man, four seasons there. He did win 12 games. Pretty sure that was with Justin Herbert, who's a fantastic professional quarterback. But that's, it's not ideal. Not ideal if you're a Florida State fan right now to see those numbers.
I don't want to say this. I'm not trying to besmirch the guy, but he won all those games with Willie's players. That's all I'm saying. It was a joke, by the way.
Okay.
No, Willie wasn't winning games with Willie's players, so credit to him. No, man, you look, like we said, we talked about Kiffin last week, that would be one that worries you. This one, yeah, I'm just, I'll say I'm surprised, absolutely. Like, I wouldn't have thought, I mean, again, like we've talked about, just look at what's happened the last 20 years. But they've never made a commitment like this. So if you would have told me, hey, do you think Cristobal will go to Miami? I would have said no 2 weeks ago. I'd have said no, of course not. And he said, what if they offered $10.80 and told him he was going to get the biggest salary pool in the conference?
Right.
I'd been like, well, yeah, probably. Like, that changes a lot of things. Like, they have been so unwilling to spend that I just thought that was the reality. I didn't know they had this in them. So with that said, yeah, man, this is like I said, you can't know how any of this stuff works out. People thought Scott Frost in Nebraska was a home run. That certainly hasn't been yet. People thought Harbaugh to Michigan was going to be national championships galore. That almost fell off a cliff. Now they're good again. So you never know. But yes, if you're a Miami fan, you're probably pretty darn excited about this hire. And look, I know Miami took a lot of grief for the way it went down because it was ridiculous. It was I don't know, man. It was middle school nonsense. Like, I just don't talk to them. Don't tell them you want to break up. Just stop responding to the text. They basically ghosted their head coach. They ghosted their head coach and he was on the road recruiting, and they didn't fire him. They waited until somebody else accepted, and then they fired him, which doesn't make Cristobal look great either. That's a peer. That's another coach that you would. A lot of coaches, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe the integrity is not something that's strong in that profession. But I would have thought maybe some would be like, well, if you fire your coach, then we can talk. But that clearly wasn't happening. But my point being, as ugly and gross and shameful as it might have been, the way they dragged Manny Diaz along, nobody's going to care at all if in 2 years they're a top 10 team. That won't matter at all because it doesn't matter at all. The only thing that matters is winning. It doesn't matter how you do it. Look, and also Manny Diaz accepted the Temple job and then bounced after a day. So it went back to Miami. So he, nobody's playing a lot of violins for Manny Diaz and how he was treated when he accepted a job at Temple, started recruiting for them, and then left after a few days. So yeah, it's just the nature of the sport. But yeah, good. It's. I don't know though. You say that, yeah. Of course, I think Florida State fans would love for them to have hired. I don't know, Joe Gibbs. Is Joe Gibbs still alive?
He's still
Washington?
with us. He's still with
okay.
us. Yes.
Somebody like that, you could have laughed at it, or rehired Mark Richt, or whatever. Give Larry Coker another shot. This, I'm sure, is a little scary for Florida State fans, but again, there's enough food to go around. Like, there's enough food you can all eat. The 90s happened. You can all eat and be good. All the schools in the state can be really, really good at the same time. We've seen it before. And like we talked about yesterday, I don't necessarily think it's a bad thing for the conference. For Florida State, it's definitely not a bad thing for the conference. I don't necessarily think it's a bad thing for Florida State at all if Miami becomes good again. I think that'd be good for Florida State because it would be great for the conference.
This is from Bruce Feldman of The Athletic. If I could read two graphs, makes me a little hopeful maybe that it won't work out. People on the outside, football people, fans, media, can look at how dysfunctional the U has been over the years. Heck, it was staggeringly dysfunctional and under-resourced when Miami was winning national titles and dominating and redefining the sport. The Canes won in spite of all that. It's a Cane thing you wouldn't understand. That is more credo than motto, and Cristobal is the same guy who, as a young assistant, actually relished Miami's underwhelming and downright shitty facilities. He wrote that. Bruce Feldman put that there. It wasn't hard to get him to rant about how they didn't want the kids who think they need all that fancy crap to make them better. Jerome didn't need it. Michael Irvin didn't need it. Benny Blades didn't need it. Neither did Dan Morgan, Ed Reed, or Andre Johnson. They were dogs, Cristobal said. Hungry, hungry dogs. All right, well, I don't know how much of that romanticism is going to work. I wonder if he's just – I hope he's just – I don't know. If you're a Miami fan.
But he said that back then, right?
No, I think this is recent. I think this was Monday.
Oh, geez.
Feldman
All
finally
right.
hunted him down. Well, no, he was saying that as a young assistant, he appreciated that.
Right.
But it wasn't hard to get him to rant about how they didn't want the kids. So all right, good luck with that, because I know you don't think the facility stuff is as important, or – I mean, I guess you sort of maybe are coming around to realizing you kind of have to build these things, but you don't prioritize.
Oh no, that's the whole reason I think Miami will never be Miami again. It's because of their facilities.
No,
I think it's extremely important.
Well, that's the thing. I haven't seen a lot of. I mean, I've seen this John Ruiz super booster guy talk about building a stadium. He's been talking about getting the highest assistant salary pool. And I know they've got a new weight training facility, but I still don't think they have they recently got an indoor practice facility, but they don't have an ops football only facility. And you still are going to need one of those things, I would think. So maybe they've blew their wad on getting Cristobal down, and they won't be able to give him all the trappings he needs. So I'll hold on to that. I'll hold on to that for right now. But good.
Well,
gosh.
look, he's not. They're not going to get the Ed Reeds of the world consistently if they have the worst facilities in the country. It's just different. Like, again, he was there at Miami back when Ed Reed was there. Alabama was just building their football facility. Like, they had just broken ground on it. Like, nobody's facilities were anything special. Now they all rival NFL facilities. Like the Falcons training facility, which is up here near where I live. You drive by it and you're like, yeah, that's really nice. Is it nicer than Alabama's? Not much. I mean, that's the reality we live in. But Miami's still, it looks like a middle school in comparison. So that does matter now, a lot more than it did back in the turn of the century, because at the turn of the century, none of them were great. Now, everybody you're recruiting against has great facilities, and great fan bases, most of them. So again, there's some stuff that still isn't, it's not in his favor. Doesn't mean it can't happen. Maybe he's the guy to do it. But like you said, the stadium being so far away, no facilities to speak of.
I think that's overblown, personally. I mean, it's funny to make fun of the fans about it and stuff, but I don't really know how much that affects your career.
But when they're playing Boston College or NC State in that stadium, or Pitt, or anybody not named Florida State, it's 14,000 people there. It looks awful. So if you're a big-time recruit that can go play in front of 80,000 people with a real football facility on campus, I think that matters more than people think it. There's the pride that Ed Reed and all those guys had of like, we don't need this. We can lift tree logs. We can just lift logs and do like lumberjack tosses. We don't need real weights. I don't know that mindset, it percolates 16-year-olds anymore or 18-year-olds anymore.
Right.
That's all.
And maybe the adulation's more important. It's cooler to be show TikTok video when there's 60,000 folks in the stadium as opposed to 16.
You're right.
Okay.
You're right.
All right, I can buy that. Everybody's trying to cash in on the next best investment, stocks and all that stuff. But if you want a guaranteed way to double your money, all you need to do is use the promo code WARCHANT at mybookie.ag. It's simple. Sign up at mybookie.ag with the promo code WARCHANT, and your first deposit is immediately doubled, all the way up to $1,000. That's a real quick turnaround on your investment. You can't get that anywhere else. Look at that. Boom. With the NFL playoff race heating up, college bowl season now in place, double your firepower at MyBookie to get action in on the most important games of the season. Build your own props, create multi-game parlays. I think Corey and I will be offering some of those here in the coming days. And take part in a host of MyBookie cash prize contests. This is the best time of year to both watch and bet on sports because, man, we've had 13 weeks of this stuff. We've seen the games. We've seen the highlights. We've looked at the PFF numbers. So we know who the winners are. Don't miss out. Double your first deposit by using the promo code WARCHANT and keep your eyes peeled for more exclusive holiday promotions coming soon at mybookie.ag. Bet anything, anytime, anywhere with MyBookie. The other thing that kind of came to surface, this is from On3, Horns with Heart. It's a nonprofit charity organization, Corey, that's going to provide every scholarship offensive lineman at the University of Texas, Austin, with $50,000 American dollars annually as part of a new NIL program.
Yes.
So,
as long as they do, they have some charity, I guess some charity events they all have to attend as part of the contract.
yeah.
But yeah, that's the world we live in, man. It's the world we live in. So hey, everybody out there listening, all you big money people, we know who you are. Start coming up with some charity ideas, or some ideas for Noles with a heart, or Noles with a, I can't think anything off the Sweet Seminoles. Come on, Aslan, help me out here.
I'm sorry. I was trying to find another part of the story where there's another thing from Texas that we mentioned the other week, Clark Field Collective, not related to the Clark family of Dania Beach and Buford, Georgia.
Right, correct.
Initial pledge of $10 million towards compensating Longhorn athletes across all sports. I'm not going to, rage against all this and we're losing the sport and these kids aren't playing for the love of the game and I'm part of the problem because I don't donate as a booster. We're a week away probably, Corey, from full out show me how much money you donate to Florida State before you criticize anything on the tribal council. It's it's getting a little testy on the message boards. A lot of
I'm sure. And when you think about it, it's like, I get that we don't want to be in that civil war, but it's we all have rights to, as fans, if we don't donate to something, to still be upset with it. Like, I don't have Braves season tickets. I can still be upset when they pitch Tucker Davidson in Game 5 of the World Series when I have a chance to see history, and we did a grand slam in the first. I was talking with some buddies about that today. Like, I was just not in a good place that night when they lost Game 5. And they were recounting some of the things I had said. And I'm like, there are 70 people in this world that if they saw me, they'd be like, there he is. There's that blankety blank from Game 5. He would not shut up about Tucker Davidson. He's the most annoying person in the world. But anyway, I still complain about the Braves. But the reality is that, there is probably, we see it, right? We see what the reality of this sport is. It's not the NFL. There's not a salary cap. It's not parity. They don't want parity. NCAA's not set up for parity. So you can complain that teams start passing you by and you seem stuck in the mud, but if you only have this amount of money to spend and they have that amount of money to spend, well, yeah. Eventually, now look, you need to spend money wisely, and clearly the guy hired before Willie Taggart or before Norvell was not money well spent. It was not smart money. But, when Alabama's got $100 million to spend on football, and these are just numbers I'm making up, you've got $38 million to spend. What are you expecting?
Yeah. I do wonder, part of me, buying the Midtown offices finally, putting it under the umbrella of my wealth building plan or whatever, is that, eventually I'm like, I'll be able to upgrade, because, eventually I'm not going to have a car payment, because car payments are for the birds, and I should be done with that like in a year and a half. I do wonder if the money that's been earmarked to pay off Willie, if that was a temporary expense, or that is just something that they realized when they made this hire, that's going to have to be diverted to, whether it be Mike Norvell, or if it didn't work out, which it's, he's going to get more runway here. So they're currently spending like $7 million. So we can look at Mike Norvell's contract, which is going to get $4.25 million in 2022. But Florida State is still spending in excess of $7 million towards head coaching salaries. So maybe we're not nearly as far away as it kind of looks on paper.
Well, that's true. You are spending that amount of money on the head coach position at Florida State. It's just that 40% of it is going to somebody that's not coaching at Florida State anymore. But yeah, so I think that's where you look. You're living in that area, but it's also the facilities. It's also, season ticket sales. It's what you can pay assistants. It's how many quality control assistants you can afford. All that stuff matters. And so, yeah, the NIL stuff really matters. That's the game changer. So if Florida State wants to compete, again, it's not set up like the NFL. It's just not. The NFL, I don't know what the salary cap is, but it's whatever. Let's say it's $120 million. They all spend $120 million. They're all on the same surface, which is like, it's crazy the Jets have been so bad for so long. That's not a joke. Like, it's really hard to just be bad for so long in the NFL. They make it where it's almost impossible. But in college football, if you're spending 28 to 35% of the money that your rival's spending, I'm not saying Florida State is, but they're not spending close to what these SEC schools are. So how do you fix that? There are, I don't know how you fix it, but I don't think we'll ever get to a point where you're like, well, what do you expect? You're not spending any money. I know it sounds like I've probably said that. You're still at Florida State, so you have some built-in advantages that other schools around the country don't. But maybe for Florida State to get back to a national championship perennial contender, you're going to have to be a lot closer to the Floridas and Alabamas and Georgias of the world than you are to Boston College and Arizona State. And right now, they seem like they're closer to the BCs and Arizona States than they are Alabama.
Man, in September, Texas unveiled Burnt Ends, which compensates every Texas tight end with a 4-figure monthly stipend, which was the nation's first fully crowdsourced NIL program. And I wonder, I guess that's like the next sort of question to you is, I mean, I think the answer is the NIL, right? I mean, I'm sure Seminole Boosters wants to increase the roles and get more people involved and get more people to donate to the program. But, I mean, at this point, are you better served getting a whole bunch of people to tip, donate $50, $100, low-level sort of donations, grassroots stuff to help towards finishing the drill and getting this football-only facility made, or creating these campaigns to get players, basically?
Yeah, I mean, the players are the most important thing. And, yeah, you got to figure out a way to compete in that regard. And, we've heard some things. Nothing's really been publicized like Texas is, and it doesn't really make sense. Like, if you've got something like that, if Florida State's working on deals like that, marketing like that, NIL contracts like that, you probably want to get that out there. You want maybe you're just telling the recruits, I don't know. But you want recruits and their parents to know what they can get if they come to Florida State, because Texas isn't shy about it. Now, you don't hear about a lot of other schools right now. It seems like the colleges are still kind of doing it like behind the curtain, under the table. Like, I don't know, do we want to make this public? Kind of, you know what I mean? Like, they're not really publicizing anything they're doing. It's up to the kids themselves, like on Twitter, to say if they're working for a company or if they're sponsored by someone. But the schools themselves haven't done a lot of like chest beating. Like, look how awesome we are. I think that's what's going to happen next, is you're going to hear coaches start talking about, well, last year our players made combined $2.3 million in NIL deals. And that'll be something they say at press conferences, because that's the next step, right? That's another way to attract recruits. Right now, I still feel like it's so new that coaches and administrators might feel a little dirty, or it might feel dicey, a little worried about, do we really want to talk about money like this when we're talking about amateur, quote unquote, amateur athletes? But that's next. But the point is, we have heard stories that Florida State is working on things like that, or they have things like that in motion for the future, including the future that will be in like 8 days. Like, we've heard stuff like that, but it's not been publicized, and we don't know the exact details. But they better get their ducks in a row. I guess you can get ships in a row, too.
Absolutely. Yeah, we got an armada out there. Come on.
Yeah, are they in a row, though? I guess they are. They're organized.
It's some sort of formation. Yeah.
They're like ducks. They get in a duck row formation.
Bingo.
But you better get your ducks in a row and get that stuff. You need to know what to tell the 16-year-old kid and the parent that you're recruiting, and you've got to make sure you keep the kids on your team happy. It's weird. It's kind of weird to talk about, but it's the reality. And Texas is just what do they got, 12? How many offensive linemen do you think they have, 12?
I think this says something like $800,000. So I don't know. You want to do the math on that? $50,000 a person. They've got like 800.
Yeah, so 16.
That. Yeah.
So $800,000 just for offensive linemen who aren't great. Like, just to be there, just signing gets you $50,000. That's the stuff you're competing against.
Every year, annually, you get $50,000, not just once. Every year.
So if you stay in school as a scholarship athlete, you're going to make $200,000, whether you play it down or not. It's not the sport I grew up with, granted, but, man, Florida State, all these other schools, you've got to figure out ways to tap into that market and get money like that available. And it's got to come through that more than it all has to come through boosters, but that especially has to be booster money. And there has to be somebody in charge of organizing that, getting that together, going to the big money boosters, like you said, going to lower level boosters and just, hey, any bit helps. That can pay for, that's 10 hours for that lineman. That'll pay for him being on campus for 10 hours. It's like, these, like Max Scherzer this year will get like $40,000 for every inning he pitches. Just nonsense like that. But that's the reality of it. $100 matters. $200 matters. $2 million really matters. But that's what's got to happen, man. That's what's got to happen. And it's because it's happening everywhere else.
And then before we go out, the 2021 Heisman finalists have been announced. Aiden Hutchinson from Michigan, defensive end. Pitt Panther quarterback Kenny Pickett, which we never talked about the fake slide, Corey. Where did you stand on the fake slide in the ACC championship game against Wake?
Not a fan of it at all. Don't think it's fair. Jordan Travis kind of did something similar against Syracuse, where he looked like he was running out of bounds, and the kid pulled up, and then he darted down the way. Next time, maybe Kenny Pickett gets hit pretty hard when he tries to do something like that, and he won't do that again. But yeah, I'm not a big fan of it. But he also did it so like I really don't like it when they do it near the sideline.
Right.
Like when they kind of slow up near the sideline because they know it's going to be a penalty. There was still like 5 or 7 yards between them. So the kid, I get why he did it, and he did it. It was a great fake, and I get why the kid pulled up. But to me, it wasn't as dirty. Dirty is probably not the right word.
Unethical.
Duplicitous. Yeah, unethical. I was going to say duplicitous, as near the sidelines because there was so much room, but it was still a huge play anyway. And there's no guarantee that guy would have tackled him anyway.
Yeah. All right, so Aiden Hutchinson, the defensive end from Michigan, Kenny Pickett, quarterback Pitt, quarterback Ohio State C.J. Stroud, and quarterback Bryce Young of Alabama.
Yep.
Twitter upset that Will Anderson from Alabama didn't make it. He had 31.
No, an Alabama guy didn't get to go to New York. Oh, man. Golly. They're just going to win another Heisman, but another guy didn't get to go with them. That's too bad.
Because Will Anderson had 31.5 tackles for loss, 15.5 sacks. Hutchinson had 15.5 tackles for loss and 14 sacks. So a little discrepancy in production there.
I mean, the reality is you only get to vote for 3. I will say 3 of the 4 people that are finalists, I did vote for them.
Let's
go. You can do that. I got all 3 of mine there. Got all 3 of mine in New York. But, the 2 Alabama guys take votes from each other. That's how it works. I didn't want to vote for 2 Alabama guys.
Good. Glad.
I mean, that's fair, right?
Yeah.
That's fair, right? It's like I don't want to. I'm tired of Alabama anyway, and it's my prerogative to not want to vote because you can say, well, Will Anderson's one of the best players in the country. Well, but our beloved PFF says that the Hutchinson kid's the highest rated player in the country.
That's correct.
And also, I should have voted for the Iowa center. It's just hard. It was funny. I was at a buddy's house.
The 4th and 1 against Wisconsin, Corey. You just couldn't let it go. The 4th and 1 against Wisconsin,
Well, and they scored 3 points in a conference championship game, and we were watching it. I did tell my buddies when we were watching the Iowa-Michigan game, because I have a buddy who's a Michigan fan, I'm like, watch that center for Iowa now. Keep an eye on him. Don't follow the ball. Just watch the center. And what did it matter? They scored 3 points. Like, he is good, but they're so bad on offense, I couldn't do it. Like, if Will Anderson had the numbers, or if Hutchinson had the numbers he had, but Michigan had the, 89th best defense in the country, I'm not voting for him. He's the best player on, one of the top 5 defenses in the country. So that's why he got one of my 3 votes. I didn't say I voted for him like number 1, but he was one of my 3. So yeah, I don't have a problem with that. You can't. Not all great Alabama players get to go to New York. Sorry. Sign Dalvin Cook.
Last thing before we go, Corey in the corner. Mike Norvell wins 9 games. 8 games this season. 8 games in 2022.
Okay, all right.
Does he deserve all the money? Well, here's the thing. Actually, I need to rephrase that. I already screwed it up. That's the end of his show. I did a terrible job. I don't even deserve to ask you the question. I screwed it up.
No, go. I want to hear it. Let's go.
I just wonder, even if you give him all the money that you've given to Willie, I still think he doesn't make as much money as Napier, and he's not making as much as Cristobal. So do you bump him up to that level, or do you say, all right, we'll give you 80% of what we're giving Willie, and then the other part of that we're going to funnel to players, and he should be fine with that?
Yeah, he should be fine with that. And say, look, when you get to a championship game, you're getting your payday. But until then, we got to take care of this roster, right? He wouldn't. I mean, what's the difference between 5 and 8 in Tallahassee, Aslan? And I can ask you, you're a millionaire. Does it matter to you if you have $5 million or $8 million? Really?
In Tallahassee, no.
You're still living pretty good, right?
Right. Yeah.
I mean, you're still going. You get as much Zaxby's as you want.
Yeah.
All the DeLuna coffee. I mean, you're doing whatever you want, man. Hey, before we go, I meant to mention it on yesterday's show, and I forgot. Brady did knock it out of the park at his play on Friday night.
Nice.
Yep. But the best part was it. So he had a pretty big part. He's playing this old country guy sitting with his buddy at the corner store, commenting on everything going on in the street. But what was funny is it's a middle school play. I'm sure there are many people listening to this that you were either in one way back when, or your kids have been in one, so you know what I'm talking about. The production is the production of a middle school play, and they only had 8 mics to go around to wear. So there should be somebody on the soundboard. When you exit the stage, they're supposed to turn that volume down on your mic.
Oh, no.
But they didn't. So the whole play, there's 3 plays, by the way. They're 3 one-act plays that they were all interminable. I mean, they lasted. They all felt like Schindler's List. Not in the topic, but just the length. It was crazy how long it was. They're not, the 8th graders at Osborne Middle aren't diving into that topic yet. But so these kids, the first 2 plays, they all go backstage and you can hear them talking to each other, like whispering, like, oh, she messed up that line. You do that line. She messed that up. Oh. And then Brady comes out during an intermission. I'm like, hey man, just so you know you haven't gone yet, because of course Brady's was the last one to go. If he'd have been in the first play, we'd have bounced as soon as it was over, but we had to sit through those 2. I was like, hey man, when you're backstage, your mic's on. I was like, so don't talk. And of course, I don't know, the first 15 minutes, every time he'd leave the stage, you'd hear him talking. Look how scared Julie is, guys. Guys, look how scared Julie is to go on, which is just nuts. But the best part was this kid who was actually really, really good. He was like talented. Like you could actually tell, like, man, that guy's a talented actor. He was walking across the stage. He was playing a new dad, and he's holding this baby. And there was just this weird pause where there was no dialogue, and then he just goes, "Yeah, I guess being a dad's pretty hard." And then he keeps walking and walks off the stage, and I'm like, I think he just improv that and messed up he just like skipped 2 pages. Like there's 2 pages they just didn't do. And sure enough, you hear him backstage going, oh no, oh, like he's making these like guttural noises as the girls on stage are doing this whole other scene. You hear the kid in the background going, oh no, I'm. And then he proceeds to throw an F-bomb and an S-bomb back to back. And Stephanie came up and went to the show, and that was absolutely the highlight for her, was the kid throwing the F-bomb backstage on a hot mic while the 2 people were trying to perform the play on stage. Good stuff.
Oh man, what a good one to go out on. Thank you for that.
There you
Corey.
go.
Shout out Brady, man. Keep doing your thing. Modern day Renaissance man.
He does it all, man. He does it all, and yeah, he likes he seems to like the attention he gets when he does it. So who would have thought?
All right, folks, that's a wrap for us. Stay connected to warchant.com. By the way, Rivals.com released their updated 5-star ratings. Travis Hunter still the first guy. Still number 1. Still.
Hey, did Marvin get his 5th?
Did Marvin get his 5th?
I thought Marvin Jones Jr. became a 5-star.
Oh, I didn't look that up. I wasn't prepared for that, Corey.
Oh, sorry. My fault. Look it up. That's fine. You don't have to look it up. Just, hey, whether it's a 4 or 5-star, you need to go and play like you're a 5-star, Marvin. Well, especially if you come to Florida State.
Oh, look at that. He's the number 13 overall prospect now. Oh, yeah.
Booyah.
Look at that. Look at that. No pressure, Mike. No pressure. Just
get it done, man. Get it done, Norvell. Let's go. Get Ty-Ray to give him a call.
That's a wrap for us on Wake Up Warchant. Stay connected to warchant.com for the latest as signing day approaches, as well as Florida State's pursuit of a new athletics director. He's Corey. I'm Aslan. Thank you for listening to Wake Up Warchant, fueled by DeLuna Coffee. Come explore our world of coffee. DeLuna Coffee was founded in 2014 by Ed and Courtney Lemmix alongside their son, Brett. The Lemmixes are Pensacola natives with a passion for coffee, so what better than their Beachin blend, which is just that, Beachin. It's their classic combination of Colombian and Brazilian beans. It creates a superior French roasted coffee taste, lower in caffeine, so it'll keep you easy breezy. Ed and Brett are both FSU alums and are extending a special offer to our listeners. Use the promo code WARCHANT15 for a 15% discount. Visit DeLunaCoffee.com and check out their Facebook and Instagram.